Good evening and welcome. This is 40 Days Bible Study number 242. We are looking here tonight at our Bible study of Matthew chapter 9, not chapter 5. Matthew chapter 9, verses 22 to 26. We're closing off this section with Jairus and his daughter being healed, and Jesus just healed a random woman while he was walking on his way to heal Jairus' daughter. Now, tonight I hope to end the mission of Jesus to heal Jairus' kid. As I wrote this, a thought occurred to me. Imagine if Jairus, as a synagogue ruler, walked up to Jesus and he commanded Jesus to leave Levi's feast, leave the sinner crowd, because he was eating among them, which is bad in their culture too, and get to his house to heal the girl. Imagine if Jairus ordered Jesus to go and heal his kid. Now, what do you think about that approach? By Jairus, I mean. As an earthly ruler of men in the house of God, because Jairus was a synagogue leader, a synagogue ruler, Jairus had some authority, and he could push that authority far enough to order Jesus, because he's just some guy to them, right? To order Jesus to do a godly deed. Now, it would be a stretch, but it is possible in their culture. Jesus, being some rando that grew up in a Nazareth ghetto, would have no social standing to refuse the order without looking like a bad person. He could refuse, but if he did, it would diminish his public image. Therefore, it might have been okay in his own mind, or it might have occurred that I could do this if Jairus had taken the arrogant approach. Now, of course, most of us would look at this and say, no, that's not right, but that's because, our opinions are clouded by the knowledge that Jesus is the Son of God in the triune Godhead. Or at least we've heard it enough to respect Jesus enough to say that that kind of treatment is not right. I'm going to add here that most people don't know that Jesus is God, nor do they consider Jesus as some sort of Son of God kind of person. And this is so because if they knew him as God, they would not disrespect his name by calling themselves Christians and living like the hell-bound world that killed him. I'm dropping that on the Christians solely. This is not about non-Christians. Many Christian people call themselves Christians, but they don't live like they know Jesus as God. Now, I open this can of worms to bring it to our attention that many of us pray with that same attitude that we just scorned. We tell God what to do and how to do it, and we just approach him without so much as a good morning and I love you, God, in our prayers. When you start praying, you're like, God, bless me with this, bless me with that. I want this, I want that. Why are these people stressing me out? And there's no God. You are great, you are wonderful, I thank you. Forgive me because I am worthless. Forgive me because I failed you, God. We don't do that. We often just drop a grocery list of instructions on how to make our lives better because in our minds, we deserve it. That's the wrong attitude to prayer, folks. Now let's get to work. We're looking here at the scene at the house. All right. He said, go away, for the girl is not dead, but sleeping. Now Jesus is walking in. Jesus came to the ruler's house and he saw flute players and the crowd making a commotion. These are the mourners, paid mourners, and so on. When he said, go away, the girl is not dead, but sleeping, and they laughed at him. That's their response. But when the crowd had been put outside, he went in and took her by the hand, and the girl arose. And the report of this went through all that district. Praise and thanks to the Lord for his word. The aforementioned noisemakers, we've mentioned them last time. Those noisemakers included women who were hired to mourn. This Jewish society seems to be a lot like the insecure, attention-seeking, desperate common minds in Trinidad today. For example, whenever there is a birthday, some little girl has to get a sash and parade in public. If a friend dies, all the group members that liked or hated that guy will walk around in freshly painted t-shirts with his image on it. People put flyers in their cars to remember the dead. Road going music trucks are used for anything just to get attention. And yes, that is insecure people's behavior. This is desperate and unnecessary behavior. These people need help. They are damaged. And what's worse is these people don't even know that they're damaged. They don't know that they need help because they think this is the behavior of people at their peak. I do need to make it clear that I'm not saying people don't need to ceremonially mark events. Our emotional needs require those things, require ceremonial marking of events, death, birthday, loss of any kind. I am saying, though, that your emotional needs don't need to be broadcast and they don't need to be forced on everybody to mourn that your great granddaddy's dog died. Notify people, yes. Seek attention? No. Don't be pathetic. No and no. This is not me hating on the kids' culture. It's me hating on foolish practices that stem from a self centered society's ungodly cravings for attention. While I've been lamenting Matthew's lack of details over the last few weeks because um, Mark and Luke give us a lot more details, Matthew provides one that the others don't. Matthew, Levi, he mentions the minstrels. So I'm coming here. When Jesus came to the ruler's house and saw the flute players, that's the minstrels we're talking about. None of the others mention them. So check it out in Mark chapter 5. They came to the house of the ruler. Jesus saw a commotion, people wailing loudly and weeping. There's no mention of the minstrels, the fife players. Fife, like a little pipe thing that they played. And here again in Luke, this is Luke's account of the exact same event. When he came to the house, he allowed no one to enter. All were weeping and mourning for her. There's no mention of the minstrels. Again, reading all the accounts helps us to get the full picture. Each writer has its own purpose, and that's why some might mention pieces, others might not mention. Okay? These minstrels are flute players, and Bengal said that flutes were especially common for the funerals of the young in their culture. Matthew left out the obvious fact that the people were wailing and mourning. Matthew's account doesn't say wailing and mourning. Matthew's account says, when Jesus came to the ruler's house, he saw the flute players and the crowd making a commotion. That's all he called it. Commotion. He didn't say mourning. These were people making noise for nothing. That's what he called it. That's how he meant it. The other guys used the word commotion too, but they gave more details. These people kept mourning in their cultural way. Now, I pull a lesson here that 1 Corinthians 2:9 reminds us, which, if you know that verse, it says, eye has not seen, nor ear has heard, nor human mind has conceived the things God has prepared for us, right? That reminds us that we can't fathom what God has for us here and in eternity. So it is our duty, it's not our duty to carry on with the world, in the world's events, in the world's celebrations, and in the world's trends. Don't be a trend whore. For real. Everything nowadays amongst the kids is, I want to be trendy. I want to be in this trend. Are you doing the latest trend? It literally says, are you the latest idiot? Are you dumb enough to copy what everybody else is doing? You see, we are to follow the solidity of the Bible. The Bible doesn't give trends because trends change. The Bible is solid. The Bible is unchanging and perfect. Do you want anything less than perfection for yourself? In verse 24, there's a word in the original language meaning depart or go away. He said, go away, for the girl is not dead but sleeping. So in the original language, go away, the root for it is anakoreo. All right? Sorry, anachoreo. Anachoreo means to withdraw, depart of, go away. In this verse, it was a second person imperative. Now, let me make sure I get this clear with you. Let's go back to it. Look at the little pop-up on the screen. There. Verb, present, imperative, active, second person, plural. This here, second person, he's the people he's speaking to. Imperative is giving an instruction that must be followed. All of that because of the usage of this verb in the sentence. You don't get it when you read the English as well. He said, "Go away, for the girl is not dead, but sleeping." And they laughed at him. This here would sound like a child telling an adult what to do. But Jesus wasn't a child talking to an adult. Jesus was the boss of the situation, coming on authority of the man who owned the house. Get out. Anakoreo was an instruction to the people to leave. Some people said that this was done so that doubt would leave and faith would flourish. But I would say that it was the effort to separate the unworthy from the ones that God chose for that moment. Worthiness here doesn't mean that some people are inherently better, by the way. It means that God has marked the ones whom he chose from before the world was made. Remember the doctrine of election. God chose his people from before the world was made. Expositors Greek Testament said that Jesus found these paid mourners to be distasteful, and I agree with it, because God loves the heart that seeks after him. God does not love the insincere mouth that loudly proclaims him. This is like a bunch of people outside singing choruses and singing, whatever songs they want to sing to sound churchy. They sing church songs really loud, but they're being paid to be there. They don't really mourn the loss of a person. Matthew was the only one to report that Jesus told the people to go away, by the way. The NLT had reported this as "get out" with an exclamation. Was this a preview of the sheep and the goat separation where Jesus separated? Well, in a way it is. It's more of a separation of the chosen from the lost, and the benefits of being chosen by Jesus are seen in the moment. People in the same place have very different experiences because of where their foci are. If one is focused on obeying Jesus and keeping him close during their life and through their lives, one will bypass all the frivolities that distract the world to see life and death miracles and experience higher levels of joy. These higher levels of joy that the numb cannot understand, fathom, or value. That's a deep sentence. Don't be upset when people can't understand your joy at obeying God. Expect that to breed hostility, mockery, and resentment. There's a small discrepancy here between Mark and Luke because Mark appears to say that after the messengers spoke, Jesus only went on with Peter, James, and John. That's in Mark 5, verse 37. Check this out. Overhearing what they said, the messengers who came and said, "Hey, Jairus, your daughter's kicked the bucket. Don't bother Jesus no more." Overhearing what they said, Jesus said to the ruler of the synagogue, "Do not fear, only believe." And he allowed no one to follow him except Peter and James and John. They came to the house of the ruler. So it makes it look like at that point, you get the message, and Jesus is like, "Okay, only you guys come follow us. The rest of you losers stay behind." Luke represents it a little bit differently. Luke in verse 51, Jesus heard it, right? "And when he came to the house, he allowed no one to enter with him except Peter and John and James and the father and mother of the child." So Luke gives a little more detail in it. Mark's presentation tells us he took nobody but Peter, James, and John. And it's said right after the news is passed on, the girl is dead. But the truth is, Luke would have been a more accurate representation. It's not like Mark gave false info. Mark just didn't bother to say when he took them. Okay? The fact that Luke gave the more accurate representation, saying that Jesus and the crowds reached the house, but he would not allow anybody except, as in Luke here, he would not allow anybody to enter with him except Peter, John, and James, and the mother and father. If Jesus was on the way and there's a crowd, and a messenger comes and says, "Hey, stop bothering Jesus, the girl is dead," and Jesus still continues to go, he insists on going, what's going to stop the crowd from following him? So the crowd is likely to follow him. All right. Luke was the only one, by the way, who said that the parents went into the room with them. He allowed no one to enter except Peter, James, and John, and the father and mother of the child. So when you see that, the other two evangelists, the commentators actually call the writers of the books the evangelists. The other two evangelists chose not to state that. Guess why? Because it would have been obvious. No parent is going to say, "Hey, strange man, go ahead into a dead kid's room with your two weird followers." So Mark and Matthew did guess the audience could read and understand basic things. Luke didn't take chances, right? And we're glad for all accounts. Mark's account could be read to mean that Jesus went to the house and then he permitted nobody to follow him. That's the reality of it. Okay? Luke removed the ambiguity in case people were wondering. Ellicott said that this is the first time Jesus pulls this trio on a special mission, and that's important. Context of the situation reminds us that the mourners were real and they were hired. So I think the insincere ones among them would gladly laugh, especially to drive him away, because they might have to give back a deposit or give back a refund. That girl is so dead. Let's laugh this loser out of here, because if he is right and this girl is not dead, we're not getting paid. Now, 2 weeks after writing that, they would have to give a deposit or whatever, give back the deposit. I read Bengals Noman, and Bengals Noman said he agreed with me on it, which was nice to see that the commentators, without me using them, I come to certain conclusions, and they actually agree, having written that stuff hundreds of years before. Now we know that people who have no honor see trouble or cause trouble when their wicked incomes are in jeopardy. They can get grimy, so ridicule here was a very effective tactic to invalidate Jesus with a minimal effort. Everybody knows this girl is dead. Here comes a guy saying, "Oh, she's asleep." Ha, let's all laugh him out of here, because we need to make our money. The more we wail, the more we could charge. I don't know the rates that they charge, but if they wailed well, other people would see it and say, "I want to hire these mourners. I want to cause as much disturbance in my neighborhood as possible so everybody knows how sad it is when my next relative dies." This is their way of drumming up business, right? Ellicott gives the reason for Jesus instructing the people not to talk about the healing of the girl later on, the last verse, so as to save the girl from scrutiny that comes from that kind of attention. Think about that. Now, think about this. Benson offered that Jesus saying the girl is asleep, do not weep, for she is not dead, but sleeping. That's what Luke has. Matthew here says the girl is not dead, but sleeping. All accounts have that he said the girl was sleeping and not dead. Jesus did that to downplay what he was going to do. This may be supported by the fact that Jesus told them not to make it known in Mark, but he didn't say, "Don't tell anybody," in Matthew. Mark's account in verse 43, and he strictly charged them that no one should know this and told them to give her something to eat. Luke's account, and her parents were amazed, but he charged them to tell no one what had happened. Jesus gave specific instructions in this case: do not tell people what happened. And part of the reason might have been to save her from scrutiny. Part of it might have been to downplay what he was doing. Of course, people being people, many would have taken this to preach that Jesus really meant she was sleeping and he got it wrong because she was dead. Or somebody said she was dead. The people just try to cause confusion. Their culture, by the way, when Jesus referred to it as sleeping, their culture often referred to death as sleep to hint at the person existing in an afterlife with hope of a resurrection. So Jesus was playing with the words. She's asleep, which could mean she's dead. He spoke the truth based on their cultural use of the word sleep because she was dead. And she was asleep. That's how people referred to dead people. But he also spoke the truth in that she really wasn't dead if you think about the fact that he was on his way to raise her up. Sure, she's dead right now at this exact moment, but as far as I'm concerned, Jesus would be telling them in his head, she's alive because when I get there, I'm going to raise her up. Context is powerful when communicating. Interestingly, John chapter 11, verses 1 to 16. This whole section talks about a guy named Lazarus that died. This account of Jesus heading to Judea to raise Lazarus from the dead. He euphemized the situation and he said that Lazarus was asleep in verse 11. After saying these things, he said to them, our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I'll go to awaken him. Then he said it plainly because these clowns he was talking to didn't get what he was hinting at. In verse 14, he said, then Jesus told them plainly, Lazarus has died, because they thought that he meant taking rest in sleep. When he said sleeping, he meant the guy was dead. Matthew Poole gave us 4 decent reasons to explain why Jesus said the girl was asleep. So here are 4 good reasons. And if you check Matthew Poole's commentary. A side note, Thomas. Everybody knows Thomas. Everybody associates Thomas with doubt. Thomas was willing to die with Jesus because Judeans wanted to stone him the last time he was there. When Jesus said he was still going, check this out. So Thomas called the twin, said to his fellow disciples, let us go that we may die with him. I want to point you out in verse 8. The disciples said to him, let's go to Judea. Then the disciples said, after he said, let's go to Judea, Rabbi, the Jews were just now seeking to stone you, and you're going there again? And Jesus explained, I'm going. Thomas said, let's also go that we may die with him. Are those the words of a guy who should have a reputation of being doubting? Or doubtful, sorry. Thomas wasn't joking, by the way. He was serious. He was dead serious, literally dead serious. That kind of commitment is what Thomas should be known for, not the whole doubting thing. Keep that in mind. John 11 has a piece of scripture that tells us Thomas wasn't no doubter. Thomas was willing to die. All 3 accounts, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, report the people laughing at Jesus as he said the girl was asleep and he instructed the mourners to leave. That's the way today. Because we consider people laughing at the church. They laugh whenever people mock the church. They laugh whenever people mock church people. They laugh at the ideas that are old-fashioned. Because culture has moved so far past biblical standards, not in a good way, that many people they don't even know that the Bible has standards. They cling to the world standards. Very few still cling to the Bible. I note that many people laugh when I share the word. This is a real thing. People do laugh when I share the word. I insult them, I insult their lifestyles, and they might still laugh because they'll think I'm talking about somebody else. Many people laugh when they hear the word because the conviction of God hasn't come upon them and they are too dumb to fully realize and fully process what is being said. Some people may get upset or angry because they perceive the gospel as an insult as well. The Greek root, katagelao, there it is, katagelao. Sorry, I said it wrong, katagelao. This Greek root, katagelao, it means mock, deride, or laugh at. It's not a simple laugh, by the way. This is laughing at. In this verse, it means laugh to scorn. The lexicon page includes, and I quote, their dismissal exposes a heart attitude fixed on empirical sight, unwilling to consider divine intervention. These were hearts that were not willing to consider divine intervention. When they laughed at Jesus saying, she's asleep, they laughed because they're not considering divine intervention. God is not going to intervene. God is not a thing. God is somebody we see when we go to church and talk about, but that's about it. He's not really there. Scorn, self, worldly company can't mix with faith. Paid mourners would have the attitude towards holiness that we often see in Trinidad, where people get glad and nothing serious matters to them in those moments. When those people are having fun, the world is so good, serious things are not a thing. That's a Trinidadian attitude. The exclusion of the mockers, these laughing clowns, at the scene where Jesus calls this girl back to life reminds us there is only so much time left for those mockers and unbelievers. The best part will be missed while they are gaily partying and doing their own thing. Matthew and Mark tell us that the throng had to be put out before Jesus would go in, that crowd. Gill said it was because he wanted it to be kept a secret to show he didn't do things for applause and they were not worthy to witness the event. 3 reasons John Gill gave, and I took note here. He wanted it kept a secret. He did not do things for applause, so he did not want an audience. And these people were not worthy to witness such a grand event. It is good to note that the miracle working power of God will not be enjoyed until we clean out the ungodly nonsense around us. Many of us keep company with people that are just pointless noise, like these loud, noisy people here. Please eject the trash from your lives and clean up yourselves. We keep ungodly company purely to minister to them, not to be ministered by them. Bengal brings forward the real question that one may ask about death, though. Jairus' kid here, a young man, and Lazarus, a young man, Luke 7:14 and John 11:44, Lazarus, they were all dead and resurrected at Jesus' call. These are 3 different people raised from the dead. Each of them were done very soon after the person died. So people could ask, is there a time limit to resurrect somebody? Of course, the answer is no. God is all powerful, and therefore God can raise anyone, anytime. Think of this. All of humanity will be resurrected at the first or second resurrections. Those will occur before and after the millennial kingdom, respectively. First resurrection before, second resurrection after. People were raised from the dead when Jesus was crucified and raised from the dead. I'll just give you a little reading here. Matthew 27:32-33. The tombs were also opened, and many bodies of the saints who had fallen asleep were raised. This is when Jesus was crucified. And coming out of the tombs after his resurrection, they went into the holy city and appeared to many. That couple of verses tells us people came back when Jesus died and was resurrected. Matthew doesn't tell us, by the way, back to our story, what Jesus said to the girl, but Mark reports the exact words. Let's go to Mark again. You can see it here, Talitha Kumi. This means, little girl, I say to you, arise. Talitha means young girl. Kumi means stand up, arise. It shows, by the way, Jesus Jesus' supremacy over death. We're going a little over time, folks. Forgive me for the extra time. The girl immediately got up. Even the dead respond to Jesus immediately. What is our excuse? Please take some time to comprehend the full value of resurrecting a body, though. Like, it's not just getting a heart started, bump, bump, and your heart beats. It's not just getting breath in and out of your body. Resurrecting a person who's been dead for days or hours, it's getting every single chemical reaction in every single cell of the body working again. You see, you could probably get muscles to twitch if you like zap a person with electricity. But the whole process after hours of inactivity cannot be jump started again just like that. Just Jesus' words were enough to reanimate dead tissue, to make the mind start functioning again. By the way, Jesus did not reanimate a zombie. He brought the girl back to life. She wasn't brought back in the condition she was in either. Because remember, she died because she was sick. This wasn't an indemnity like insurance, I'll just restore you to the point you were before you died or before you suffered a loss. This was complete restoration of health as well. Modern medicine may reanimate a person if you fall unconscious or something. But modern medicine cannot do a reanimation and restoration to full health. Modern medicine can't do a factory reset to your health condition instantly. Touching a dead body, by the way, would have made a person unclean in their culture. We've said this before. Jesus was not deemed unclean at all because this wasn't a dead body. When Jesus took her by the hand and he said, "Get up." So, taking her by the hand, he said to her, "Talitha kumi." This is in Mark. In Matthew, when the crowd had been put aside, he went in, took her by the hand, and the girl arose. So he literally touched the person. That could have made him unclean. But Jesus wasn't deemed unclean. Imagine the stress of the Pharisees and the other haters while they were trying to prove, hey, this grand teacher, this healer, this drunkard, he was unclean. Why? He touched a dead body. Really? Where's the body? Well, is that girl over there? But she doesn't look dead. How do you prove Jesus touched a dead body if the evidence of the touching the dead body is a dead body and the dead body isn't dead? Imagine the pre-trial conversations they would have had. How do we prove he touched a dead body? Luke said that her spirit returned in verse 55, and I want to show you all that. Taking her by the hand, he called, saying, "Child, arise." And her spirit returned, and she got up at once. Again, the immediacy of obedience. A dead body immediately obeyed, and life returned to her. Guys, consider immediate obedience to God whenever you are tempted. And don't tell me, well, I didn't realize I was being tempted. Really? The spirit returning tells us that the spirit or soul is the true essence of an individual. The body is dead. That's not who she was, because that would decay. The true essence of who she was is the spirit. That continues to exist after the body dies. If we are given glorified bodies when Jesus takes us to heaven for the marriage supper of the Lamb, disembodied spirits are in effect just waiting. And that's what will happen to the lost, except the lost will not just be waiting, they will be in torment for eternity because they're going to be in the lake of fire. Closing off now. Matthew is the only account to say this last piece. And the report of this went through all that district. The fame spreading throughout the district was mentioned by Matthew alone. Pulpit commentary said that this was not said about any other miracle. While it could be a reasonable conclusion, people spoke about Jesus' miracles in that gossipy society because the crowds were chasing him for free food and free medical care. Lots of people heard. This is the only time it's mentioned. The account of the girl's healing would have fueled the hatred of Jesus by the church leaders because they could not dream of raising somebody from the dead. And Jesus would have made them look bad. So when they went to people and made their income demands, they would not be as imposing because citizens would be like, why do you want my money? You can't make anybody better, much less raise somebody from the dead. But that guy from Capernaum, he's doing it. Believe it or not, that's the end. God willing, next week we'll continue from verse 27, where Jesus heals two blind men, as you can see on screen. To one and all who are here tonight, live or watching on YouTube or Facebook, thank you very much for participating and partaking in our 242nd Bible study. For today's ministries met on Matthew 12, 26, to share Matthew chapter 9, the conclusion of the healing of Jairus' daughter, in that passage where a woman with an issue of blood was healed as well. Thank you very much. This has been our 116th Bible study in the Matthew series. We look forward to trying to do some more as God allows. Thanks very much for sharing your time, folks. God bless you. Hopefully, we'll be here again next week to share more. Goodbye.